Some places you walk away from, thinking that closing the door behind you is the end. But places, the wrong ones, they remember, they wait. And when you come back, they pick up right where you left off.
It was supposed to be a quick stop, just one night off the highway, after 10 hours of driving through nothing but dead trees and silence. I hadn't slept in almost 2 days. My fingers ached from gripping the steering wheel. My eyes felt scratched from the inside. I passed a dozen no-vacancy signs before I saw it, a flickering red neon with half the letters out. Longwood Motel. It looked like the kind of place that had cigarette burns on the furniture and a man behind the desk who watched you too long. Perfect. I pulled into the gravel lot. One other car was parked there, an old Impala coated in dust, its back window fogged from the inside. The front office was silent. A hanging bell over the door jangled weakly when I entered. Behind the counter sat a man in a brown sweater, thin as paper, eyes glassy like he hadn't blinked in years. Before I could say anything, he slid a key across the counter. Room 9. I hadn't told him I needed a room. I hadn't given my name. "Do I need to fill anything out?" I asked, trying to keep it casual. He blinked slowly and shook his head. "It's already under your name." I stared at the key. It had one of those old plastic tags attached, bright yellow, room number printed in faded ink, and on the back, in messy block letters, J. Cross, one night, 10/19. That's my name. And today was October 19th. The hallway smelled like wet carpet and forgotten soap. The lights above flickered as I passed them, not randomly, but one by one, like something was following behind, turning them off in sequence. Room 9 was at the far end. I unlocked the door. Inside was exactly what you'd expect. A sagging bed with too many pillows, a TV from 2003, peeling wallpaper. Dust particles floated in the air like ash. But there was something else. On the desk near the window, a notepad. Hotel stationery. And written on the first page, in handwriting that looked eerily like mine, "Don't fall asleep. Not again." My chest tightened. I looked behind me. Nothing. No movement. The bathroom door was ajar. I opened it slowly. Empty. No windows in the bathroom, just a vent that rattled when I turned on the fan. I sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress groaned like it had a voice. I told myself someone else must have had the same name, that the note was left by a past guest, a coincidence, a mistake. But when I opened the nightstand drawer, I found something I couldn't explain. A photograph of me, sleeping, on that very bed. The angle was from the corner, near the TV. My arms were folded just like they had been when I crashed earlier that week in another cheap motel. Same shirt, same bruise on my wrist, same lighting. But I'd never been here before. Not in my life. I dropped the photo, suddenly aware of a low sound, something vibrating, almost imperceptibly. It was coming from the vent in the ceiling. I climbed up onto the chair, got close. Behind the thin metal grate, breathing. Slow. Measured. Like someone waiting. I stumbled back, nearly knocked the chair over. The breathing behind the vent didn't stop. It stayed steady, like whoever was on the other side hadn't noticed me, or worse, didn't care. I checked my phone. No signal. Not even emergency service. I told myself I just needed sleep. A few hours and I'd be gone before sunrise. Just one night, like the tag said. But the note, the photograph, the name already on the key, it all screamed otherwise. I went back to the front desk. The man in the brown sweater was gone. No bell, no note, no sign he'd ever been there. But there was a guest book, one of those old leather-bound kinds where guests leave comments or signatures. I opened it. Page after page of identical handwriting. Every name, J. Cross. Every date, 10/19. Different years, same room. The entries got sloppier as the pages turned. Still here. Didn't leave. Can't wake up. Room 9 eats time. The last entry wasn't written in pen. It was scratched deep into the page, torn almost through. He looks just like me. I ran, straight back to the room, threw my bag on the bed ready to leave. But the hallway wasn't the same. Longer now. Dimmer. Room doors on both sides, all labeled 9. Every one of them identical. Every one of them mine. I picked the closest, opened it. My room again. Same layout. Same photograph on the desk. Another photo on the bed now. This one of me, from behind. Taken in that moment, holding the photo. I dropped it. The TV turned on. No static, just a live feed. Security camera view of room 9, but not mine. Another one. Another me, pacing, breathing hard, looking for the exit. Then the figure appeared in the frame. Not a man. Not exactly. Tall. Blurred like it was underwater. Limbs too long. No face. Just reflection. It stepped into the room behind him, the other me, and whispered something in his ear. On the TV, the other me turned around too late. The screen went black. I turned and ran again, slamming every door open, trying to find the lobby. Every hallway led back to room 9. At some point, I lost my bag. At some point, I started forgetting things, like what time it was, how many times I'd opened the same door. But I finally found it. My room. The original one. Or maybe the first copy. The notepad was still there, on the desk. But the message had changed. Now it read, "Someone else will check in soon. Let them in." I didn't understand. Until the phone rang. I stared at it. It rang again. And again. 5 times. Then silence. Then a knock at the door. I approached slowly. There, through the peephole, was a man. Tired eyes, worn face, backpack slung over one shoulder. He looked familiar, because he looked exactly like I did yesterday. He knocked again. Behind me, the notepad glowed faintly. One more line added. "This is how you get out." I stood there, watching the door, listening to the man knock again, softer this time. And I realized the awful truth. To leave this room, I'd have to become the voice behind the vent, the man who hands the key, the one who knows your name. I reached for the knob and smiled.
My parents moved out of the old house last year, the place I grew up in, 2 stories, creaky floors, a yard that was always too dark on one side. They downsized to a condo. I was supposed to help them clear out the garage, the attic, all the childhood junk they didn't want to move. I told them I'd get to it, but I kept putting it off. Eventually, the new owners gave me a deadline. 1 weekend. That's all. I drove out on a gray Friday evening, parked in front of a house that felt more like a photograph than a memory. It didn't even smell the same. Just old wood and mothballs. Inside, everything was emptier than I remembered. But the backyard hadn't changed. Same crooked fence, same dry patch under the sycamore tree. And tucked in the back corner, leaning slightly to the left, the fort. I had built it when I was 9. Just a bunch of old plywood, metal siding, nails that stuck out too far. My dad helped with the roof. It had no floor, just dirt. But to me, it was a castle. And it was still there. Not just standing, intact, barely weathered. Not even the paint had peeled much, which didn't make sense. The thing should have collapsed years ago. I walked toward it, expecting it to reek of rot. But as I approached, I stopped, because there were footprints in the dirt leading up to the fort. Small ones. Fresh. I note to look closer. The prints were made in soft, damp soil. Maybe the rain from 2 days ago. They were narrow, barefoot, no tread. No adult could have made them. I called out, "Hello? Anyone back there?" No response. I opened the door. Inside, it looked exactly like it had when I was a kid. Same comic book pages taped to the walls, same flashlight hanging from a nail, same dirty red blanket crumpled in the corner. But I hadn't been in that fort in over 15 years. No one should have had access to it. No one should have preserved it. That's when I noticed the drawings. Dozens of them. Pinned, taped, or nailed to the interior walls, on notebook paper, faded white printer paper, even napkins. All of them drawn in black crayon. Crude stick figures, red scribbles, trees, a sun with no face. But in every one, there was a tall figure. Thin, faceless. Sometimes it was standing near a house, sometimes in the trees. Once it was inside the fort. In one of the drawings, the figure was holding hands with a much smaller stick person. Labeled underneath in shaky handwriting. Me, plus, friend. I backed out of the fort, suddenly lightheaded. I hadn't drawn any of those. I would have remembered. I took a picture of the drawings and went back inside. Called my mom. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey, sweetie, how's it going?" "Who used the fort after me?" Silence. "What?" "The backyard fort. Did someone else use it after I moved out?" Another pause. "You never built a fort." I stopped walking. "What?" "You always talked about it, but you never finished. Dad made you tear it down after you got a splinter. You were mad for weeks." I stared at the photo on my phone. The fort. The drawings. The footprints. All real. All impossible. "Mom, it's still there. It's intact." She laughed, awkwardly. "Maybe someone rebuilt it. The neighbors? I mean, we haven't been out there in months." I hung up. Not because I was angry. Because I heard something. From the backyard. A knock. Not at the door. From under the window. I slowly stepped over and looked out. Nothing. Then I glanced down and saw a hand. Small. Bare. Resting gently on the grass like someone was crouched just beneath the sill and scratched into the wood below the window in fresh marks. I miss our games. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the old pull-out couch, the blanket barely covering my chest, listening to the sounds of the house, familiar and off. The way the water pipes echoed, the creaks in the ceiling, the distant, rhythmic tapping. I tried to convince myself it was just old bones shifting in the walls, but at 2:13 a.m., the door to the backyard creaked open. I hadn't locked it. I sat up slowly, listening. No wind, no footsteps, just the soft sound of hinges resetting, and then a whisper, childlike, barely audible. "You forgot the rules." I froze. Then it came again, a little closer, now somewhere inside. "You left. That means I win." I stood and turned on every light. The room was empty, but the photo I had taken of the drawings was gone from my phone. Deleted. Not in trash, no memory of ever being taken. I went back to the fort before sunrise. This time the door was closed, but there was light inside. I opened it slowly. All the drawings were gone. In their place, scrawled across the walls in huge, looping black letters, "One more game." In the center of the room sat the red blanket. Under it, a lump. I didn't want to, but I lifted it and found a cassette recorder, already playing, static, breathing. Then my own voice, a child's version of it. "Okay, you hide first, but don't scare me again like last time." Then a deeper voice, slow and scratchy. "Promise." "Pinky swear?" "Pinky swear." Static. Then a loud crack. Then silence. I turned off the tape. My hands were shaking. Something was off in my memory, like the audio had unlocked a door I didn't want opened. A cold feeling spread through my chest like a bruise I didn't know I had. That night, I had a dream. Or maybe it wasn't. I was back in the fort, age 9, knees muddy, elbows scraped, and sitting across from me was something wearing a child's clothes but taller, stretched too thin, like someone pulled it out of shape. Its face was a blur. It held out its hand and whispered, "You never finished the game." When I woke up, there was dirt under my fingernails and a new drawing on the kitchen table. Me, adult version, standing next to the tall thing, labeled in shaky block letters, "Now you remember." I left the next morning, didn't say goodbye to the house, didn't tell my parents, just drove. A week passed. I tried to forget. I almost believed it was gone. Until today, when I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside, the red blanket, a fresh cassette tape, and a note written in childish scrawl. Your turn to hide.
When we moved into the house, the real estate agent barely mentioned the crawl space. "It's sealed up," she said, smiling like it was a joke. Previous owners didn't use it, probably full of cobwebs. We didn't care. The place was old but solid. Vaulted ceilings, worn floors, weird charm. Perfect for our little renovation dream. The sealed door was under the staircase. No knob, just a wood panel flush with the wall, nailed shut and painted over like it was never meant to be opened. For months, we ignored it until we started hearing the thuds. They came at night, low, dull, soft at first, like a boot dropped from 2 feet, then louder, closer, at 3:12 a.m. sharp, almost every night. My wife thought it was the plumbing. I said maybe raccoons, but deep down I knew it wasn't either. Animals don't knock. The decision to open the crawl space wasn't really a decision. We were just tired of guessing, tired of the sound. One Saturday afternoon, I got the crowbar. I scraped the paint away, popped the nails out one by one. Behind the panel, a low, square door, wood, dusty, no handle, just a round hole where one might have been. It smelled like wet dirt. I took a flashlight. My wife held the phone, filming it like we were in some HGTV episode. I pried the door open. Inside, a short, narrow passage, barely 3 feet high, dirt walls, a concrete slab for flooring, the ceiling pressed close, with rusty nails pointing down. But there was something else. Something in the back. A crate. Black wood. Roped shut. I crawled inside. My wife stayed at the entrance, filming. The further in I went, the colder it got. The flashlight flickered. When I reached the crate, I saw symbols carved into it. Things I didn't recognize, like someone scratched them in with a nail. Circles, teeth, eyes. I touched the rope, and then I heard it, from behind me, a whisper. Don't. I spun around. No one there. The flashlight went out. Dark, silent. Then a voice, deeper this time, from inside the crate. You woke me. I don't remember crawling back out. I remember falling. I remember the concrete feeling soft under my hands. I remember my wife screaming my name. When I opened my eyes, I was on the living room floor. She told me I had crawled out fast, fell forward, and started convulsing. I don't remember that. All I remember was the voice and the cold. We sealed the crawlspace again that night, screwed it shut, painted over it, put furniture in front of it. But the thuds came back, and now they weren't just at night. They were underneath, beneath the floorboards, following me. The thuds didn't stop. They got heavier. Sometimes it sounded like something crawling just under the floorboards, dragging a limb too big to fit, pulling itself forward an inch at a time. At 3:12 a.m., it always paused, right beneath the bedroom, and waited. We stopped sleeping. I covered the crawlspace with furniture, then a sheet of metal. Then I nailed it shut from the outside, even though it was already sealed. But then every morning, the furniture had moved. Slightly. Tilted. Scraped against the wall. And the panel, the one we'd painted over again, always had new scratches on it, like fingernails pressing from the inside. Then things started disappearing. Keys, socks, a toothbrush. Small things at first. Then my wife's journal, then photos from our wedding wall, gone without a trace. In their place, sometimes we'd find dirt. Just small piles of it, wet and cold, like it had been carried in someone's hands. The worst part? The thuds started happening during the day, even while we were in the same room. Once, I heard one just beneath my chair. I jumped up, listened, and heard a voice, muffled through layers of wood and drywall, humming. A lullaby I didn't recognize. And a whisper that followed, I remember you. That night, I dreamed of the crate again, except this time, it wasn't shut. The lid was off. Something inside was curled, pale, long. It blinked slowly, eyelids vertical, like a reptile's. Its mouth never moved, but I heard it speak. You were here before. You promised never to leave me. I woke up drenched in sweat, went straight to the closet. I don't know what I was hoping to find, reassurance, maybe, that it was just a dream, but behind the coats, there was a photo album I didn't recognize. Black leather, heavy. I opened it. Every page had a picture of me, but younger, in this house, as a child, laughing, playing, sitting near the crawlspace. And in the corner of every photo, the same shadow. Faint, long, curling like smoke. I asked my parents about it the next day. My mother went silent. My father said only this: "That house was never yours. We never lived there. You're remembering something that never happened." We tried to leave the next week, packed up everything, loaded the car, but the tires were slashed, and the front door wouldn't open. Not jammed, just refused to move. We called for help. The call goes through, but the only sound on the other end is breathing, followed by, "He's still inside you. He's using your voice." My wife doesn't speak anymore. She hasn't said a word in 3 days. She just sits on the couch, staring at the wall, mouthing the word again, over and over. At night, she scratches into the coffee table. Always the same phrase: "Let him out." I think the crawl space is open again. I hear the nails falling one by one. I hear footsteps that don't match ours. And this morning, the crate was in the living room, unlatched, empty. And now the house is quiet. Too quiet. No more thuds, no more voices. But sometimes I catch my reflection in the hallway mirror, paused, watching me a second too long. And last night, I watched myself crawl back into the crawl space. But I'm still here. Aren't I? Right?
You left the motel. You moved away from that house. You forgot about the crawl space. But the room still has your name on it. The fort still has your drawings on the wall. And the thing beneath your floor? It never left. It's still waiting for you to come back.